WhatsApp off me dad. You know what dad's like when it comes to the football? He's really usual dad self when it comes to his pragmatism, shall I say, not getting carried away with things.
Really? Was he being jovial?
No, the opposite.
Really?
Not the time to get carried away was the gist of it.
Right, okay. Fucking hell.
Which
I am.
I am, yeah. Mate, it's been hard enough. I am getting carried away until it's too late.
Yeah, everyone was giving me slack about like fucking giving me shit about the joint top stuff. I'm celebrating joint top. It's a big
thing. It's an official thing. Like
it's a thing until we're first, and then it's not a thing.
Then it's not a thing. Exactly.
Yeah.
We drew the league in 2012. People forget that.
Yeah.
City didn't win it. We actually drew.
Yeah.
It was half each.
It was a media conspiracy against us. Undocumented. Yeah. Ian Brown needs to get his tinfoil hat on about that one.
It's taken us 1 minute and 7 seconds to mention Ian Brown's tinfoil hat. That's a new record.
And other pop icons who we've slated on this show deserve a round of applause tonight for Craig David and the lads down at Southampton. Proper ball with the result against the vermin of Merseyside. Fuck you, Jurgen. And I don't give a shit if anyone watches this from Liverpool. Don't follow us. We've got loads of you now. 1,400 are following Scotty and Motty podcast. We got 1,400 followers, and now we're into our third lockdown. It's been quite an eventful year, mate. We'll get into all that fucking shit in a bit, but I wanted to tell you something funny before we get into all the depressing stuff. My missus got me this like fucking anti-aging cream. You know, I thought it was just like one of them, pound shop gifts for fucking for Christmas and stuff.
My missus got me. Yeah, all right. I use that excuse.
Yeah. Right, so I didn't think anything of it. I just thought it was a load of tat. I just wanted to moisturize my face, and I put it on. And the next minute, it was fucking like it's got collagen and shit, and it felt like I was embalmed. I was like, what? I was walking around to the kids saying "scare me," give me a reaction, and I couldn't fucking move my face for an hour. And you're supposed to wash it off. Honestly, I was like a cop. Always read the instructions.
Hey, there's a man who's used to using beauty treatments.
Yeah, I know.
Burnt half his face off.
Yeah, fucking hell. Tell him, mate, crow's feet are kicking in. 440 is going to be ruthless. Even though I'm going to be spending it indoors.
I need to sort out my, my T-line or whatever you call it.
T-line. Are you asked about getting old? Like how you look and stuff? You're not vain. You're not vain, are you, Jay?
I had a nose job, didn't I? I had a bit of the old rhinoplasty. But since
I didn't think you had a bad nose, though.
People said that to me, but you know when it's in your head? I don't know. It was weird, and it was one of those things. And it's funny because after I had it done, I didn't like my nose anyway. And then the day after the operation, when I woke up in the hospital, the clinic or whatever you call it, the doctor said, "Oh, actually, yeah, when we did the operation, your nose, it had been broken a couple of times," which was news to me because I didn't remember it ever getting broken.
That probably says more about the state that you got him.
I didn't like it. I didn't know it'd been broke twice.
Did they find anything up there while they were going?
Yeah, they all had a sniff party.
Okay, I was like Christmas in here when they're cutting into the.
That paid for the operation. There's 4 grams of snizzle up there.
Oh man, fucking hell.
Yeah. Rhinoplasty. Never did anyone any harm.
No, should we get to the depressing news?
Go on, mate. Introduce us first, please.
Oh, all right, fucking hell.
Come on, mate. Professionalism. What's up with you?
All right, Starling. Hello, we're Scotty, and that's Motty. We're Scotty. I'm Scotty.
The royal we.
Yeah,
we are Scotty. Fucking hell. King David over there. It's
a new year, a new me. for our first episode of 2021, bringing you into your third and hopefully final lockdown. I know a lot of you have been watching us during these and enjoying it as much as we have been doing. So thanks for that. And obviously the news was broke tonight. That was expected, albeit that I'm not sure why we didn't do it yesterday, because I'm not sure what changed between Sunday and Monday to go into a lockdown when I had to iron all my kids' school uniforms and take them in the rain to the primary school. And just parental angst aside, they really enjoy going back to school, and then I've had to put them to bed tonight saying you're not going back to school tomorrow, and it's just a complete... That side is an absolute head fuck. And the fact that Sage told them on the 22nd of December that this would be expected, and yet they still went ahead and allowed people to mingle at Christmas and stuff, and not make any decisions then. It just seems to be... Do you think a knee-jerk reaction, and they were sort of pressured into making this move today? Because he said on Andrew Marr, didn't he, Boris Johnson, yesterday morning, that stricter measures will have to be made. But if not now, when? What was the sort of... Why, do you know what I mean? Why delay? If you know that you're going to need to do them, why are you waiting until Nicola Sturgeon's making decisions in Scotland, and you've got people like Jeremy Hunt, who's been the voice of morality on Twitter, forcing you into a decision? You know you're in a bad place when Jeremy Hunt's being the moral compass.
Well, exactly. Do you know what I mean? You've seen the sort of things he's got up to in the past when he was it Health Secretary?
Yeah.
You know, he should have changed his first name to Isaac. I think that when you look at it and you think, I watched Mar yesterday and I saw that Johnson was like adamant, it's safe for schools to go back. And then, like you just said, the day after that, to say it's not safe, and to make this announcement is just unbelievable. And what was quite sort of really disgusting about the whole way it's been handled is you make this, or you do these interviews on the Sunday, you say it's safe. Now, I'm like you, I've got kids. My missus was worried. She's up all night. She's messaging. The school didn't know what to do. The unions were saying it wasn't safe. Some parents were saying they weren't going to take the kids back in. My missus is vulnerable as well, so she was worried about the ramifications of that, because obviously, it didn't make any sense what they were saying. Kids are going to be mingling, people are going to be mingling in the playground. It can't not be safe out of a school and safe in a school. And it's not just that the kids can have it and be okay. They can give it to people, they can give it to the parents or to whoever. So it didn't make any sense. But then again, today, the announcement, was it 8 o'clock tonight at the time of recording, 8 o'clock Monday night? If you're a teacher, a parent, if you've got a kid that's of a young age as well, were you telling your kids to go to bed early tonight to go to school in the morning?
Yeah, it didn't work.
Do you know what I mean? Yeah. Do you know what I mean, though? There's parents out there, I saw a lot of it on social media, parents saying, I don't know if I'm taking my kids to school, I don't know if I'm telling them to get ready for school in the morning, or they're going to go to school in the morning. There's people who work in schools who didn't know what was going on. It just seemed like the worst way to handle it. And that's sort of been the MO throughout this pandemic, is the fact that this government, in a difficult time, me and you've both admitted it's a difficult time, we get that for any government, but they've been one of the worst governments in the world at handling this pandemic. It's been an absolute shambles, contradictory, nonsensical, sort of idiotic advice at times. And then when they do give you the right advice, or advice that you think, okay, this makes sense, they either give it you too late, or they make an announcement at a time that makes it life difficult for you. And you said angst there, you said parental angst. And that's what a lot of people have felt. They felt angst throughout this pandemic. And yeah, you were always going to feel like that during a pandemic, because, it's an anxious time. But it's been exacerbated by the sheer incompetence of this government. And how many times, Scotty, have me and you during this podcast, during this lockdown, we started this lockdown, criticised the government and said, you know what, they keep getting things wrong. I can't believe how many mistakes they're making. And yet it still continues. And we're sat here again. We had the tier system. You explained to me what good that did. What was the point in that? I'm tier 2, tier 3. Oh, now there's a tier 4. Oh, we're going to come up with a tier 5. What are you on about? What has that achieved? It's achieved nothing. And now you've got a full lockdown again. There's still people that are struggling. There's still people that are struggling financially. People are left in the wilderness. People are, I don't want to keep coming up with cliches, but are slipping through the safety nets. And it isn't good enough. And this government should be ashamed of themselves.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, and you make a good point regarding the tier systems didn't work, and then before that, the track and trace system that they were supposedly getting 500,000 people was it 500,000 people tested a day by the end of October. That didn't come through, and it's just been one calamity after another. And the way they're handling it just seems very reactive. There doesn't seem to be any sort of forward thinking or strategy. And one of the most sort of there's lots of disappointing things that we can look at it. But when we went into lockdown in March, this was a whole new thing. No government in our lifetime have actually gone through a pandemic. So like I said, we could hold our hands up to certain mistakes that were being made when they were making ridiculous ideas like herd immunity or delaying lockdown. Okay, you can get it wrong once. But how is it that we're a year down the line, know a lot more about the disease, know about who it actually who's most vulnerable to it, the older people that are going to get affected or the people that are ill are the more likely that are going to die for it. And yet we're still using the same strategy to defeat it. How have they not got any other sort of reaction rather than just shut everything down? I'm really concerned now about my daughter's my eldest mental health, because she has suffered from night terrors for it, and I know a lot of people have had obviously kids' education. I've been suffered, but it's a social side as well, because they're on the primary school kids, and I think it does have a massive impact on that. So now I sort of look at it, and another point of view is I can't believe that there isn't another way that you can keep the vulnerable and elderly safe whilst keeping kids in education. I just can't believe that there isn't a way around that at all. And I know the reason why we are going into lockdown, and that's because there hasn't been any forward thinking, and regardless of sage advice, and that's being ignored. But I just can't believe it. I just find it unfathomable that we're here now doing the same thing that we did last March. Surely, what does that show that we've learned? That we have to shut down the country after him repeatedly saying that we're not going to shut down the country. We're not going to shut down the country. We're going to keep people in schools. Lo and behold, after Christmas, we're shutting down the country again. So it doesn't seem to be like we're learning anything. We try all these sort of these guinea pig ideas like the tier system or the track and trace app. Uncle only up the fucking wall, right, to no good, only to come to the same result of fucking, of shutting the country down. What does that show? That you don't have any sort of strategic plan as to what you can do to counter it? And then we've got to wait until, and it was very loosely on what his ambitions of when we're going to come out of lockdown. It was if the deaths come down, if the vaccines are rolled out, if, and the fact that Rishi Sunak has extended furlough until the end of April. And it's not a conspiracy theory. I think that they've seen this coming, that we were going to have to go into another lockdown. I just can't see any other rationale behind them having to extend the furlough that long, because they knew that this sort of situation was going to come.
No, I agree completely. I don't, the Tories are hardly renowned for giving away, or not giving away, no one's giving away anything, but for sort of, embracing the socialist ideals in terms of the furlough scheme and extending that. They're not likely to do that because they like that sort of thing, or it's their policy or their ideals. They're doing it because they knew they had to, because otherwise the economy is going to come crashing down, because as you said, that they're going to, they knew they were going to extend the lockdown. What's interesting about, you listed a few things there that just didn't make any sense. The herd immunity idea that was, first it was claimed that was a policy, that it was denied. There was the interview, I think it was on This Morning, when Boris Johnson was sort of talks about taking it on the chin. Then that was, we never said that we were going to do herd immunity. Do you remember the whole help out to eat out to help out idea? Where, yeah. I work in Manchester City Centre in town. It was like Monday to Wednesday, it was half price food, and everyone was going out to eat out to help out. And then all of a sudden it was all, the R numbers going up, and that's wreaking havoc, and we need to bring in this tier system and shut all these places. And it's like, well, why did you tell everyone to go out? I was going out into Manchester Arndale during that time, and it was rammed. You couldn't, you know what I mean? It was mega busy, because they've been encouraging everyone to go out and eat out. It was unreal.
Yeah, but today Matt Hancock's come out and said that it wasn't down to government policy. It was down to the population's behaviour. Yeah, who was the one that was sort of pushing the sheep into these sort of into these pens full of coronavirus? They weren't going off there on their own accord. Do you know what I mean? It was like what's the Pied Piper, pretty much, just bringing on, not referring to the human race as rats, but they were following this guy, that expecting the government to be doing everything with the right thing. You expect them to be looking out for your welfare, get the economy going. And then what goes up? The R number goes up, and yet they're still distancing themselves. And that's the thing, is that the complete lack of responsibility and ownership that they've had over every single thing that has gone wrong. Because not one thing has there hasn't been one success story throughout the whole pandemic. There really hasn't. And the fact that when you're looking on New Year's Eve and you're looking at places like Australia or New Zealand, even fucking China, right, where the disease started, we're having fucking raves with inflatable dinosaurs and all sorts of shit going on. I was like, and we're here, and now it just reeks. It's just fucking shit. That's exactly what it is, mate.
I can't argue any of that, to be honest with you. And the sort of the troubling thing is, and we have this discussion, me and you, and everyone has it, not just me and you, is that how can you be expected to keep following advice that is so obviously wrong so consistently? We do our bit. The British public have done their bit. And yes, there's isolated incidents where people have had parties and people have, lost their minds or have done things they shouldn't have done, broke COVID rules, broke lockdown rules. There was that bloke, Dominic Cummings, who drove across half of England because he wanted to test his eyesight, apparently, with his family in the car. Do you know what I mean? It happens. But what are you meant to do? You meant to just say, right, okay, this is the advice. I'm going to follow it. Okay, the advice was wrong, but we're going to change it. All right, well, I'll follow this advice. I'll do it. Now, I'm not saying you shouldn't follow the advice, but I can understand why people do get disillusioned and do think, what is the fucking point in listening to these idiots? Because every time they tell me something, it's been proven wrong. There was the Cheltenham Festival that went ahead, the Liverpool Atletico Madrid game that went ahead, when those shouldn't have done it. Even Manchester, I think it was the St. Patrick's Day parade, went ahead, which annoyed me on a local level because it shouldn't have done. That was after the Cheltenham Festival and the Liverpool Atletico Madrid game. But, those were mistakes. Then the sort of the delay in the lockdown turned out was a mistake. They reckon that cost thousands of lives by delayed by a week or a fortnight or whatever it was. And we're still seeing it, the whole sort of, herd immunity, help out, eat out to help out. And what saddens me about some of these things, like eat out to help out, we were told that we were helping our community by going to eat out, helping local businesses, helping some of the businesses that were struggling because of COVID. It was like, if you go and buy from these businesses, you're helping them. You're helping the economy. You're helping your local community's economy. So you like being portrayed as you're doing the right thing, you're doing a good thing. When in the end, we're putting ourselves at risk. Yeah. We were helping to spread the virus, not because we wanted to. I didn't want to go and, put myself at risk or spread the virus. I was being told that if I go and have a takeaway from the jerk chicken shop down the road or whatever, that was going to, not only was it was safe if you wear your mask and you'd be all right, but you're helping out that business that could go under. And it's just a farce, and it's something really sort of distasteful about the way this has been handled. It's not just incompetence at times. It's sort of like a mixture of a lack of even giving a toss about the vast majority of the population by the government, and also of trying to help out or, increase the wealth of certain friends and associates they've got. And I just hope that when all this dust settles, there's a massive investigation and people who have made these decisions are held to account, because there's certainly, it's not just about lessons being learned, because, it could be 100 odd years before we had another pandemic. It's about people who have knowingly acted in the wrong manner and put people's lives at risk, who need to be able to account. You do, because you can't just say after all this has died down, well, we did the best we could, it might not have been good enough, but, we tried. That's not acceptable. What's gone on during this pandemic has been unacceptable, and people need to feel the repercussions of that. They really do.
It's not any sort of any legal action, or are they void of it when you're in government? Because, like if there's a malpractice, if you're a doctor or a nurse and you're in their care, and something goes wrong in the surgery, like when you were getting all the coke taken out of your nose and you were getting a new nose job done, right? If that had gone wrong, then you would have been at liberty, then, wouldn't you, to sort of sue the surgeons and stuff. Now, are we not based under the government's care? Do they not have like some sort of responsibility to their citizens that when we're pushed and stuff like that, and how badly it has been handled? Is it not a malpractice from a political level? Is there not anything there?
Possibly, mate. I mean, you'd think there would be, the trouble is with this government is they don't abide by any sort of rules. Was it Priti Patel when she broke the ministerial code, which apparently, that's almost certainly to lead to your dismissal, and it didn't. Nothing happened because of that. Now, I don't know if there is sort of a legal route, but I think they usually have inquiries and things like that, not after a pandemic, obviously, because it's, they're very rare, but when there's been major incidents and something like that. So it'll be interesting to see. I mean, I think the obvious thing, you've spoken about this before, again, is that you remember, and I know it might take a little bit of patience, but you remember the people that have put us in this situation. You remember the ministers, the MPs, the government officials, or whoever, the government, I should say, who have helped to make this bad situation so much worse. And the next time you get the opportunity to vote, you do your best to vote them out, because there's been countless cases of just, like you say, almost governmental malpractice, for want of a better expression. And I think those people need to be held to account. And even if that account is in 4 or 5 years' time, whatever the 4 years' time of the next general election is, which is a long time away, and I know it's difficult when you're looking for, answers to wait that long, or for someone to be held to account to wait that long. But maybe that's what it'll take if there's nothing more forthcoming. People need to remember and not just think, oh, well, they did the best, because I don't think they did do the best at all. And I think the evidence shows that.
Yeah, I mean, trying to be the sort of devil's advocate with the conspiracy theorists, I've seen that as Julie Hartley Brewster, or whatever her name is, who's on Talk Sport, or whatever, Julia Hartley.
Oh, off Talk Radio.
Talk Radio. And
Julia Hartley Brewer, is it? Yeah.
Yeah, something like that. And she put a tweet out, I think it was just before Christmas, saying that there's been 347 deaths under the age of 60 that didn't have any sort of underlying health issues that had died. And then if you look back compared to the number that had died due to the underlying health issues or age, do you not think that do we need to lock the country down? Do you think this is the right thing that we can do now? Or is it not a sort of, send everyone who's in vulnerable state or old to centre parks? You know what I mean? And just like fucking house them. Seriously, you can vaccinate them all. Do you know what I mean? You've got the number, you've got the data of all the people that are of a certain age. You've got the care homes and stuff like that. Is this what we need to do now, Jay?
I mean, it seemed like, I get where you're coming from. And even though I wouldn't listen to Julia Hartley Brewer if you put a gun to my head, I get the point you're making about playing devil's advocate. And if there was an option where you could somehow protect all the elderly and the vulnerable and carry on living our lives, not with a sense of normalcy, then yeah, we should do that. But I just don't know if we can, and I don't know if you can trust this government to do that, because rolling up track and trace was a disaster. Getting this vaccine out, I've got a little confidence that they could do that, what you're suggesting, and made that work. And I think that it may sort of end up doing more harm than good. And a lockdown isn't great. It's not like, oh, this is what we all want or this is what we all need. But this seems to have been the advice that has been given by Sage and by other people for quite some time. When Boris Johnson was talking yesterday, and he was sort of saying, oh, well, you get different advice from different. I think he was saying, well, Public Health England have said this thing and Sage have said this and da da da. But by and large, I think that the lockdown is probably the best of a bad bunch. I mean, I might be wrong, but I think that, whilst it is difficult, and I get that a lot of people are suffering, man. A lot of people are. My great uncle, he's not left his care home since March, and I speak to him on the phone, and he's going through it. But I just don't see. I don't see whether.
But do you not think it's prioritising then? And I'd never want to be in a position where you have to choose between the sort of mental health of masses of people and businesses going down the drain because of, and then the repercussions of their mental health because your business has gone down the drain, or education. And if you look at now, this is going to be the second year where either kids can't take their GCSEs or their exams, and that's going to, they've been gone through 5 years of school. We don't know you don't know what that's going to do for a generation. Do you know what I mean? Later on down the line. So you're like trying to save, you know what I mean? It's like prioritizing saving one bunch, and you don't know the damage that you're doing to another bunch due to these certain actions.
Well, this is what the Talk Radio mob were always saying, aren't they? The likes of Julia Hartley Brewer, the likes of Lawrence Fox, and and Toby Young. I mean, Toby Young was like, we might just have to let some old people die for the greater good of the economy sort of attitude. I know that's not what you're saying. And it is a balancing act. But I think if you can, if you're almost...
But there's no... What I mean is there's obviously no right way out of this, but we've seen a lot of wrong ways that are out of this. Now, if you spent the first 2 lockdowns where we shut the whole country down, prioritising that, is it not now time where we sort of look where this? What I mean is where we should be looking at other strategies about how we protect the vulnerable and elderly. And when I talk about mental health, like a lad I know killed himself on Christmas Day, and that's, do you know what I mean? And this is the sort of shit that next year when employment rates go up and stuff like that, there's going to be a lot more deaths, that weren't through COVID or illness, but were a byproduct of that, and that's hard to sort of quantify where we are now.
To sort of, not humour you, that's not the right word, but to answer your point, we're going into lockdown, right? So that's happening. So why don't we use this time in lockdown? I want to say we, I don't mean me and you. I mean the powers that be. They obviously wasted the last lockdown because they didn't come up with anything during that lockdown that had any long-term benefits. So why aren't they looking at that? So if we actually do this lockdown, whilst this is happening, when we come out of it, what is the plan? How is that balancing act going to be done? How are we going to get the vaccine out to everyone? How are we going to protect the elderly, look after the NHS, and look after people's mental health? Yes, it's very difficult, but so is being in government, and that's part of the fucking job. That's part of your job. And also, you've got the resources and the advice there and the experts that can help you with this, because it feels like the last lockdown was almost wasted a little bit. It was like, all right, we're all going to do this. We'll do it for a big chunk of time, and end of it, we'll just come out of it, and then we'll tell everyone to go and eat out and do all this other stuff.
But I mean, they've just literally copied the same strategy, because if you look at the first lockdown, like I said, lockdown, come out, eat out to help out. Second lockdown, then come out of that, and then you're all allowed to mingle again on Christmas Day. Do you know what I mean? And then third lockdown, what's going to happen then? Are we going to get another sort of eat out to help out incentive on the back of that?
Well, no, you're right. No, they don't.
That's the thing.
No, they don't, and they should do. And this is my point: is like, right now we're going into this lockdown, and I think that it sounds a bit cheesy, but this is the opportunity now to learn from all these mistakes. The one advantage this government has got over everyone else is we've made that many mistakes. There's a lot of learning that you can do from them all. Do you know what I mean? You can learn a hell of a lot of your Boris Johnson because you've made an absolute pig's ear of so many things. Jesus wept. You can learn more than an Oxford professor. So try that. Look, this didn't work. This didn't work. This didn't work. This isn't working. These people are suicides going up. People, education suffering. The economy's got dogs. They've had the wrong balancing acts where they've tried to help the economy at the expense of health and then go into this short-termism and not thinking about long-term. They've given contracts to people that don't know what they're doing, and we've seen the reaction of that, the results of that. You've got to try and learn from all this and do it quickly, because people are going to start running out of patience. In the first lockdown, everyone had this sense of coming together, clap for the NHS. And I'm not blaming the NHS for any of this shambles. Those people deserve, more than applause. They deserve a medal and a pay rise, actually, which would be nice for them. But there was this whole sense of sort of we're in this together, Dunkirk spirit sort of thing, which the government was quite clever at amplifying and tapping into, and we're all a victim of the pandemic, and we all just need to pull together and give a round of applause to the NHS workers. We're all underpaying and overworking. When I say we, I mean the government. That wears thin, and it wears thin very quickly. And people now are getting to the point of like, our NHS staff haven't been protected well enough. We know that with PPE, with the pay rises they've not been getting. Government contracts are being dished out to people who don't know what they're doing. The message is all muddled. As you just said there, I'm sorry to hear about your friend. And, suicide at Christmas and Christmas time is horrendous anyway. And with this, what's going on with the pandemic, I can only imagine how bad it's been for so many people who are struggling, because we know that historically this is the worst time for many, many people. And the pandemic can only make that worse. So you're right, that is a real issue. Education, yeah, kids are suffering. My kids are suffering. My oldest is 10 years old. I'm worried about her. I don't want her to fall too far behind, because it's not just a case of, well, she's not going to fall behind because all the mates aren't at school. That's not how education works. Do you know what I mean? And yes, you can do homeschooling, but it's not the same. So there's lots of sides they need to look at. And they didn't do it last time. They didn't do it the time before, did they? Like you said, it was like one rule, one idea, then it was this, and then it was this, didn't work, and then did it again. They need to do something different there. Now, I don't know what the situation is with this vaccine, how easy or ready, how sort of the logistics of getting it out there, but it's something they should be doing during this down. That should be the priority. Let's get the people vaccinated, like you said about sending them to centre parks or whatever. I know that's probably not going to happen, but how do we get this vaccine out to the people that need it, and how do we get it out quickly? Because every day, is vital, and for some people, that day could be the difference between life or death. And I don't mean to be melodramatic there, but that's where we're at now. Do you know what I mean? It really is. And I think that, and I say this, Scotty, and I've said this many times to you when we've been on this, and now more than ever, the press needs to step up. Because I don't want to see sort of right-wing jingoist nonsense about how proud we are to be British because we've shown this great bulldog spirit, when we should all be proud of how Boris Johnson is leading us into battle, when people are just suffering and dying because of this incompetence. The government should be held into account. It should be scrutinised when appropriate, which is pretty much all the time. They should have their feet held to the fire. And that's what I want to see from the press, not just propaganda that costs a lot.
Nationalist sort of
thinking. You're intelligent people. If you're a journalist, you're intelligent, but not just if you're a journalist, you're intelligent. That's not how it works. But most journalists are intelligent people. And I think they need to use that intelligence and hold this government to account, instead of just going, oh, you know what? What's the clickbait sort of right-wing view that my readers will go along with? No, we need to be better than that. And it needs to start now, because like we just said, each day's costing lives, man, and we can't keep going through this cycle of shit.
Yeah, may I can put it better myself. I hate the whole idea of that bulldog spirit, because it isn't that at all, is it? I mean, when you're saying bulldog spirit, that's when you're seeing sort of soldiers going to some and actually willing to give up their lives. But we're not. This is different, because we're actually being led. Our lives are being led. We're sort of being led to these decisions.
You used the Pied Piper analogy, and I know you weren't, saying that people are rats, and you said that, but it feels like that. We're being led by people that just don't have our best interests at heart. And that's a sad thing.
And speaking about leaders, over in stateside, there was a tape leaked this week from Georgia, wasn't there? Dickie Donald Trump got on the phone, and the recorded message got leaked out to the press. And it's not looking good for him this year, is it? What's he got left? 21 days, is it, in the White House?
Well, is it the 20th that he actually is the inauguration? Yeah. So what are we on now? Yeah, I think you're right. Is it like 14 days or 15 days or something? The thing with Donald Trump is this. Now, just for a bit of context, if anyone that hasn't heard this, the president, he spoke to Brad, well, get this right, Raffensperger, which is the most American name I think I've ever heard. Who's like the Georgia top election official, and Donald Trump lost the election in Georgia by about 11,700 votes, around that figure. I might be slightly wrong there, but it was around that figure. Sorry, 11,779 votes, I think it was. And he more or less got on the phone to the guy who's in charge of the election in Georgia and told him to find him 11,780 votes or whatever he needed to win. He said, just find, basically just find them for me, and then I can win that election in Georgia. Now, there's several things that is really bizarre about this. It was an hour-long phone call, this, right? So it's, I mean, other than me and you, I don't think anyone speaks for that long. Do you know what I mean? You know what I mean? If I went to jail for 10 years and my missus would probably won't be on the phone for an hour. But it's like Donald Trump rings an election official. Apparently he had 18 missed calls off him as well, this election official. He was proper stalking him, and he just thought, you know what, I better answer the bloody phone. And he rings him, and this extraordinary conversation where it's like your drunk granddad ringing and just waffling about, the immigrants or whatever. And you're like, I'm not saying your granddad is like that, but you know what I mean? And you're sort of going, yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah, but well, that's not really true, granddad. Or, no, come on now, that's not the case. Or whatever, you know what I mean? And it's like he's literally speaking to an unhinged person. I was listening to some of the tapes on CNN last night, and it's ridiculous. And it's like, what Donald Trump's done is technically illegal. He's basically trying to get an election rigged. It makes no sense because let's just say, for the sake of argument, I mean, it makes no sense on several levels. One, that election has been certified. The Electoral College have voted. Brad Raffensperger can no more turn around and say, I found these votes, than he can turn around and say, I'm the president now. It's impossible for him to do that because it's all been certified and the Electoral College has voted. Even if he could, even if he went off the deep end, he went, you know what, Mr. President, I'll do this for you. Don't worry about it, Don. I've got you. It doesn't make a difference. Donald Trump still loses the election because he still lost Pennsylvania. He's still nowhere near the target he needs to be. It knocked him down from like being 38 votes behind to 31 or whatever. And there'd be a constitutional crisis. It just makes no sense for him to try and do this. But he's done it. And like you were saying, he's in all sorts of trouble. When he leaves the White House, there's talk that maybe he could be prosecuted. There's talk of him giving himself a pardon before he does. I mean, it's just an absolute mess. But we've seen it before with Donald Trump. Do you remember the tape that came out of him saying you should? The great thing about being famous is you can force yourself to kiss women, grab them by the pussy. And what happened? He won the election. Now I know he's not going to win this election, but he's Teflon Don, and he'd probably get away with it. And I don't know, maybe still be free to run in 2024.
I just love the idea of the phone call, and everyone in Georgia, and he's got everyone coming in the office. He's here, he's on the phone, and then tell him I can't believe what he's saying. 11,000, Donald. Yeah, I'll just check under the couch, mate. 1 minute. We got 4 under the pillow. Wait. Bridge. Yeah, it's got all of Georgia laughing their ass off.
It's like someone said, "Well, why did you record this call?" To I think it was Brad Raffensperger who recorded it, and he said that this isn't the first. I think it was Lindsey Graham or one of the senators had suggested this as well. Can you find these votes that we need? So he started recording his phone calls. Whenever he had a phone call with any of these Republicans or the president or anyone, he recorded it. And the tape's pretty unbelievable. And, now you've got these senators, these Republican senators, I think there's about 10 of them, might be 12, who say they're not going to certify the election. I mean, it's meaningless. It's done. Biden's won. It's not going to achieve anything. But what you see now, what I was watching sort of CNN last night, is this sort of mini civil war going on for what you could say is the heart and soul of the Republican Party, because there's some Republicans that are going along with Donald Trump for the ride because they're scared of him. He's still got a massive base. He's still got 75 million votes or 70-odd million votes. And then you've got a lot of Republicans, or some Republicans, I should say, who are like, this is unhinged. This is undemocratic, And it's funny how Republicans I've always sort of disliked. Even like Paul Ryan, who's kept his head down for the last 2 years, came out last night and said that this was undemocratic and it was undermining the votes of millions of Americans. And, you can't do this sort of thing. And it's mad how these people, who a lot of them are not actually that nice, are sort of being painted in a better picture because they're actually standing up to what is a sheer egotistical man baby who's just trying anything he can rather than accepting the fact he lost an election. He lost an election by what he classed as a landslide when he won it by the same margin, and he just can't accept that. And the scary thing is, Scotty, we've got, what did I say, 13, 14 days, whatever it is, 15 days until Joe Biden's inauguration. And I think I've said this before with Donald Trump, and I say it again, I think the worst may yet be to come. Okay.
Now, the thing with the likes of Ted Cruz is one of them who sort of been behind him and saying that he's going to sign off. Do you not think that are they sort of boxing clever, thinking that if I look like I'm on Donald's side, because it wasn't Ted Cruz up for running for Republican candidate a few years ago?
Do you remember what happened with that one? What happened with that? So Ted Cruz was one of the front runners when Trump won the Republican primary. He came from nowhere, really. No one thought he had a cat in hell's chance. He was like a 500-1 outsider, and there was likes of Marco Rubio, and Jeb Bush, and Ted Cruz was one of the front runners. And Donald Trump went after Ted Cruz's wife. He called her ugly, I think he said. He said that Ted Cruz's dad shot JFK. Honestly, I'm not making this up, because there was these pictures of these three hobos that have always been linked to the Kennedy assassination, and Donald Trump said that one of them was Ted Cruz's dad, and that he may have shot JFK. And then insulted his wife as well, and said that his wife was ugly.
And still got president.
Still got president, and still have Ted Cruz supporting him, because Ted Cruz needed that base. He needed the people that backed Donald Trump to back him. And when he was up for re-election as a senator in Texas, Beto O'Rourke ran him a very close race, and he needed that support, and Donald Trump had to go and sort of give him a helping hand. So Ted Cruz is probably looking at 2024 thinking, if I back Donald Trump now, the Republican base, all these Donald Trump supporters, these MAGA guys will back me, will stay in my lane. But the thing he's forgetting is that by backing Trump now, if he thinks that that's going to help him in 2024 with the run to the presidency, he's fucking deluded, because all he's going to do is help Donald Trump in 2024.
Yeah, true.
And if it's not Donald Trump, because let's not forget, Donald Trump's a obese, unhealthy 74-year-old or whatever he is. So there's every chance by the time he's 78, he won't be fit enough or well enough or even alive to run, just because he's that age. Then it'll be Ivanka or someone like that.
Yeah.
It won't be Ted Cruz flying the Trump flag. So I think he's extremely short-sighted, Ted Cruz. I think he sold his soul to the devil, and I think that he's making himself look like a proper muppet, and he'll be remembered as one. And it's spineless. I mean, if I insulted your missus and your dad to the level that he had, would you then back me and support me and stick up for me? No. And yet, that's what he's done.
What sort of bloke does that make? What sort of picture does that say about you? Your morals, that you're allowing people to hurl abuse at your family members, your dearest and nearest, just for political gain. I certainly wouldn't be voting for him. What did you make of? Are you big on the Julian Assange news?
Yeah. So what's the latest with that, man? Filming is this that they wanted to extradite him to America?
Yeah. America wanted to extradite him, and the UK judge has come out today saying that they haven't got the grounds to extradite him to the States. But I just wanted to get your take on the whole Assange scenario, really, if you've got much background on it.
It's difficult with Assange, because it always seems a bit murky to me what is going on. Because whilst I admired WikiLeaks when I first saw them, and they were releasing all this footage of some of the stuff that went on, I think it was in the Iraq War, things like that. And it seemed like it was quite noble, and it seemed like there was sort of exposing some of the nefarious actions of the American government. It troubles me a little bit on the slant of it, because I think, they had ties like to Roger Stone. I think it was obviously one of Trump's main, I don't know, backers, not probably the word. He was like his sort of hatchet man, his advisor, or whatever you will. So it was like when there was all this Trump and Russia stuff coming out during the 2016 election, all of a sudden WikiLeaks, releases all of, he was the chap that was in charge of Hillary Clinton's campaign. Oh, what's his name? John Podesta, was it, I think. All his emails get leaked, and it seemed like there was very much a sort of pro-Trump slant almost. So that sort of troubled me a little bit. I know that he was sort of bunkered down in the Ecuadorian embassy.
Yeah.
In London, which was just a bit bizarre. And yeah, now he's been sort of the Americans are trying to get him over. There's talk that if he went over there, that I don't know how true this is, that Trump could pardon him. It's all a bit murky, to be honest with you. And I think that it just depends how you look at it, because to some, Julian Assange is like this hero, isn't he? He's a really divisive figure.
It's quite cultish, isn't it, really?
Yeah, like some people say he's this hero, he's this sort of champion of free speech, who's exposing all these things. Others say there's a sort of a slant and a political slant to it. I know that at one point he was accused of a sexual assault. I think it was in Sweden. But I think that case got dropped. That case got dropped. So that's, that sort of been dealt with. But I'm not saying, obviously it's been dropped for a reason. So you can move on from that bit. But yeah, I've always found the topic of Julian Assange always very contradictory and confusing, because while I can respect and admire some of the things he's done, others I find a little bit troubling. So
yeah, I've like protests and marches, and I've seen quite a lot of we talk about the far right on this show, but some of the far left, the extremists on that side. That's what I mean. It's very, very sort of cultish. When we talk about like WikiLeaks and stuff like that, I don't admire him. Just his personality. I don't seem to sort of, the interviews have seemed to him, and I'm not saying that you have to be a warm person, but just the way he talks and his rhetoric. When they're comparing to the likes of, say, Edward Snowden, who I love listening to Edward Snowden. I think he's absolutely brilliant in what he did. But now found himself in Russia. And the Snowden film's well worth watching. I don't know if you've seen it.
You know what? Is this the one with what's his name? Gordon Levitt.
Gordon Levitt, yeah.
Yeah. I've not. I started watching it one day. Joseph Gordon-Levitt, yeah. And I've not actually watched it. Is it any good?
Yeah, no, it's really good. Yeah, it's really good. And then there's a documentary as well built around the situation, what happened. I think it was the Guardian reporters, one of that Snowden sort of leaked it to, and everything that happened within the first 7 hours. But I'm quite big fan. Obviously, John Le Carre, who passed away, and I actually messaged you because you always whinge on this fucking show how John Le Carre books don't transfer well to the screen. I thought, oh right, well if I want to pick up a John Le Carre book, I know who to speak to about that. It'll be Jay, because he's obviously read it, because he'll know what's transferred well. And what did you say to me, Jay?
I've not read any. Right. Can I defend myself, right, on some of your statements there, my learned friend? I think it's a slight stretch to say that I always moan on this show about how John Le Carre books don't translate well to the silver screen. We've done about 40 hours of this show, and I've probably spent about 29 seconds saying that.
No, they do 2 podcasts. You said it on
2 podcasts out of about 40 for a grand total of about 2 minutes out of thousands of minutes, probably. So okay, might exaggerate that one a little bit. Secondly, I can watch a film and know it's confusing. It doesn't, it doesn't make sense. It's difficult to follow. And all right, I'm not the brightest part, but I usually can keep up with the plot and see that it's from a very good source, because I can just, for a fact that the sort of some of these books are well revered. Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy, for example, is one of, is lauded. Yeah, if you watch that film, it's confusing.
Yeah.
It is, who's doing what? Where's he? What's happening with him? Where was Tom Hardy? Why is this a flashback, or is this really happening now? Okay, then. So what happened with him? So, I watched that film about 4 times to try and get my head around it. So for them reasons, and I think it was Little Drummer Girl was another one that I mentioned. I just found it. I've always thought they don't always translate well to the silver screen. I know that's not the most sort of logical way of looking at it, not reading a book and just watching the film and then judging whether the film.
That's nothing like the book. How do you know?
Yeah. I read the synopsis of the book on Wikipedia. I read the Cliff Notes. But yeah, I just found some of the films a little bit confusing that I've seen have been translated. And, some of the reviews on Rotten Tomatoes said the same.
Yeah. Well, I actually, the film that I recommended on the series on iPlayer last time was The Night Manager. So I actually got the audio book of The Night Manager thinking, I'll see what the difference is. And funnily enough, the audio book's harder to fucking follow because it does flashback more than the actual version. So the film version is better than the actual book.
Well, I'm glad me and you cleared that up for everyone.
Yeah, so we've lost all. Well, we might have like 2 John Le Carre fans left. I wanted to talk about. Have you seen Spiral? Yeah, have you seen that series?
No, tell me a little bit about it.
Mate, it's like The Wire meets Cracker set in Paris. It's fucking phenomenal. It's the best thing I've seen. I caught it at the end of last year. It's on iPlayer now. There's 7 seasons and there's an 8th one coming out next week. And it's all set around like these cops in Paris. They did like wiretaps. You can see the influences from The Wire in there, but it's proper.
Because
yeah,
that's a sort of that's as big a compliment as you can give something saying it's like The Wire. And Cracker as well was one of my favourite shows.
It really is up there. I guarantee you. Watch one season and you'll be hooked. And it's proper dark, mate. Like the some of the sort of the brutal scenes of when people have been killed or the states the bodies have been left in. It doesn't fuck about. It's like Parisian noir, I suppose. I'll describe it as. It's. I've got my French top on.
Yes. Dressed for the occasion. It's like Parisian noir. Look, there you go. Can't argue that. It's practically French. Do you know what I mean? He's dressed in his French garb. So yeah, no. Do you know what, mate? There's loads of things that one of the lads at work today was talking about. I Will Destroy You. He was saying that's worth watching. The Spiral. There's so many things that I want to watch that I've just not had time to because there's some great telly out there in a minute, and I need to get back on it, and hopefully we can get back on it as well and start doing some more top 5s. It'd be good to get back into the top 5s for 2021. Maybe we could do a top 5 things to watch in 2021 or something like that. I don't know. Especially lockdown coming up.
Yeah, we'll have to do a lockdown.
Because lockdown, I know that.
Hey, mate, lockdown's not coming up. We're in. Oh, mate, this is it. We're in it.
We are, you know, I shouldn't say that. Yeah, we're on the verge of it. We're right bang in the middle of it, aren't we? So, well, not in the middle, at the beginning of it. So, yeah, we should do more of that stuff because I know people were sort of saying that. So, you know, give us your suggestions because it'd be good to get everyone involved. We've been very interactive on this podcast, which I like. Another thing what we want to do, me and Scotty have spoken about as well, is doing a few more lives because I know when we do a live, it gives people the opportunity to get in the chat, which we're all about. So we will try and do some more of them as well because we've had some good guests on. We did obviously the marathon live of 6.5 hours, whatever it was, election night, which was great. Loads of people got involved. Some great people in the chat, people jumping on as well. We did a live not long ago with Trevor Dwyer Lynch, one of our good mates who's led the sort of such an exciting and colourful life, and loads of people had great feedback in that, and just, you know, it's like the voice of God in it, listening to Trevor. You can listen to him all day.
Yeah, the feedback from that was really good, weren't they? Because you're never sure we're never sure what sort of response we're going to get from the shows and stuff. But everyone sort of really loved the Trevor episode when he was talking and stuff. But yeah, it's really good. You can start like more layers than an onion, and it's like a lot of stories to tell. That lad.
I think, you know, the general consensus was you two clowns can shut up and let's just listen to Trev, which was like. Yeah,
I noticed that one. I just wanted to see. I noticed one of our comments actually. I wanted to bring up tonight. That was aimed at you, Jay.
Sounds ominous.
Completely no context. Motty doesn't have a clue. That was it. Didn't say it in reference to what. That was on our Christmas turkeys episode. That was, and we got 1 dislike. So I presume it was from Sid Snot saying Motty doesn't have a clue.
You know, to paraphrase Alan Partridge, so, Mr. Sidsnot, you say, I haven't got a clue. Well, I think if you were to go to Urmston Grammar School and check their records from 1996, you'd see that I left that school with 5 C's and a B in my GCSEs. So, Mr. Sidsnot, who doesn't have a clue now? I think we've established there, mate, that with my 6 GCSEs, I have got a clue. What did I get?
You get GCSEs in?
My maths and English, science, history. Maths was Julia Ward. No, not maths was Julia Ward. Science was Julia Ward. Science, 2 C's. English was a B. English. I was English language and English lit and history, I think.
Yeah.
It was all the basic ones, mate. You went to
a posh school? Like, you went to a posh school? Like, what was that like?
Posh. I went to grammar to pass me 11 plus. It wasn't like I was, part of it. It was like I went to Eton. It was in Urmston. It was like
that's what Urmston Grammar School is known as, the Eton of the North.
It's not even known as the Eton of Urmston.
I'm going to expose you on here. Everybody, it comes on here. He's a champagne socialist. He went to a posh school. He's into cricket.
Yeah, I love a bit of cricket, me. My favourite team's the Manchester one. No, listen, I went to Urmston Grammar School, like to remind people that everyone calls me a chav. I'm not actually, I went to grammar. But no, it was just, I passed me 11 plus. Bit gutted when I did it at the time, because all my mates would go to Wellacre or Broad Oak, the comprehensive schools, because my mates aren't as clever as I am. Oh, they weren't at that time. But yeah, my mum was like, no, you are going to grammar. You've not got a choice in the matter. And to be fair, I tossed about a lot at grammar, but I managed to scrape a few GCSEs out of there. And then, what? Hang on a minute, I can work this out. Was it 11 years later when I went to college? They came in handy.
Yeah, because then you went to the College of Hard Knocks after that, didn't you?
Yeah, then I went to, me and you were mates at the time, and then I went, I did give college a go when I was 16, but it weren't for me. Other than the smoking weed and listening to,
Same.
hip-hop, I think it was at the time. But yeah, then I went back when I was a little bit older and only just slightly wiser, I managed to pass. But yeah, I did. I went to school. Where did you go at school? Where did you go? Because you like me when you was a mature student.
Yeah, well, I was surprised. Trevor actually mentioned it the other day. I went to a school called Spurley High School, which is in Gorton. Finished with the second worst GCSE rate in the country at the time when I actually left school. I left with 5 GCSEs. Seriously, mate. More teen pregnancies than GCSE passes.
Do you know what? Right, one of my first ever sort of placements and work experience was for my local paper. What was then, I don't know if it's still going, I don't think it is, the Stretford and Urmston Messenger. And one of the jobs, it was terrible. I went out a couple of times with one of the reporters, but they had me just like data inputting and stuff, and can you just write up this obituary and stuff like that. And then the GCSE results came out, so can you type all these up and put them, for the paper. So obviously there's just fucking hundreds of them in it, and then you put the names like Dave Scott, and then in brackets how many A to C's. So because I was fucking bored of this, and I was only young when I was doing it, I just started adding them, making them up, and just like, this lad's only got 1 GCSE, let's give him 5 and stuff like that. You know what I mean?
Make his day.
Yeah, I just wondered if I had a few mates who didn't even go to school to pick up their GCSEs. They just looked at him in the paper because they weren't asked. And I just wondered if there was anyone there who looks in the paper and thought, fuck, I've got 11 GCSEs here and I only sat 8. There must have been a couple of people, but yeah, it was grim times. But it's not the end of the world. If you got, people might be going a bit under, don't get all serious, but they're missing important part of the schooling and might be sitting the GCSEs and things like that. And my only advice is, listen, don't panic. Do you know what I mean? I actually didn't get the results that I thought I was going to get. I did a lot better in my mocks than I did when I did my GCSEs. And it's not whatever happens with GCSEs or A levels or whatever. There's always options, man. There's always options. You know what I mean? There's you will never get results from any exam or anything that completely closes the door on your future or your career that you're choosing. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. And you don't have to do what me and Scotty do, wait years and years to go back to college or to uni or whatever. There's always options. You just got to talk to people and say, all right, if you get the results and they're not what you wanted, look at different options. Do you know what I mean? Whether that's doing them again, doing something differently, doing a different type of course, whatever. There's always options. And I learned that. And, because I've seen it. And I was at school with a lot of people, because I went to grammar, who took it very seriously and were devastated when they got 9 A's and a B. Do you know what I mean? Crying and fainting and stuff. And when I was not really bothered. But I get it. And it can feel especially when you're young, like the end of the world, and you've got results that you're hoping for. And I know this has been such a difficult time for anyone in education. especially people sitting there, well, anyone, but, you know, if you sit in your A-levels or your GCSEs, it can be, you know, even more testing. So my only advice, and trust me on this one, I've got experience in it, is just there's always options, and no matter how deflating it may feel if you don't get those results, and frustrated because you may not have got the results you wanted because you've had, you know, to try and plow through in this middle of the pandemic. Then there's other options there. So don't feel like that's closed the door on a certain career or certain path that you were looking at. It definitely isn't the case.
No, not at all. You are only young, and there are a lot more options ahead of us. I think I just want to wrap with saying, if anyone's watching this and you are a teacher or you're working in the schooling system, massive thanks to all the work that you'll be doing while we're recording this, with the 12 hours notice that you've had to actually plan and prepare lessons for our kids over the next 6 weeks or maybe beyond. We always talk about nurses and other people in public services, but teachers, I mean, both me and Jay will know how, just from our own experience of trying to homeschool over the past 2 lockdowns, how difficult it is, the job that you guys do. So thank you all for that, and we shall see you very, very soon. I've been Scotty, and that's been Motty.